Welcome to this week's Eternal Monday. We're going to do something a little bit different today. We're actually going to be looking at some Eternal format decks and giving our thoughts on them as we put them on a tier list. The Eternal format has actually developed a bit of
Meta.
so we can kind of finally say where things go. It's
I
weird.
I can definitely attest to a lot of the meta.
Everything goes in D tier.
That is not how it works, sir. Anyway, let's start up. I think these are alphabetized based on the Pokemon that was in the file name, but that's okay. So we'll start out first with Alakazam Star. So Alakazam Star, the basic idea is very similar to a Slowking coming out here in Stellar Crown. Ultimately, your idea is to discard a Pokemon from your hand to use it one of its attacks. So Alakazam Star is a star Pokemon, which means very similar to Radiant Pokemon. You can only have one of any Pokemon Star in your deck. So you're a bit limited on Alakazam Star. You have one. So if you get hit with Velocity, you're kind of just game over.
Or prized.
If it's prized, you have to do a Heavy Ball. You have options for that, at least.
You can at least get out of it.
But let's look at placing it. Where do we think his Alakazam Star goes? I'm thinking probably C.
Yeah.
I think C because
C.
it's not totally useless, but
As somebody
it's
that's
like
as somebody that has, and a lot of these I have either played or played against, so I can kind of tell.
Alakazam Star is clunky.
Alakazam is very
It's
clunky.
cool,
It's
but
cool
clunky.
when it works, but like when it does not work, it's just
so the only contenders are B
yeah,
and C.
C.
Yeah.
So next up is Articuno Lock. Articuno Lock, the idea behind it is that you're paralyzing your opponent's active Pokemon while moving those damage counters off to their other Pokemon. So you're sticking something in the active spot that can't get out of the active spot, and then repeatedly moving the damage counters off until you can just take a big multi-turn knockout. Or multi-knockout turn, rather.
I think that this one's gonna be determined on its comparison to Alakazam and what we determine a C tier deck to be.
I don't think it's C tier.
What I'm
I think
saying
it's
is
D.
if it's better than
Articuno?
Alakazam,
What else does it have? What does it have that's spreading the damage?
It's the Duskmore that's moving the damage counters.
Okay, yeah.
I think
so it's
I
better
think
than
it's
Alakazam or worse than
way
Alakazam?
better than Alakazam. It's at least B tier.
Yeah,
I'm comfortable with B.
I think it's because like my brain was
It's
on.
been a
because,
while since it's seen a lot of play.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I also played against it on TCG Live where it was like the Monkey Dory build.
Yeah, it's
but
similar.
it's similar, but the Monkey Dory is actually worse because it's an ability, which is weird saying that for those that don't know about Poke
Duskmore
Powers
is
and
also
all
an
that.
ability.
Yeah. Hence Eternal.
Yeah.
But you can play the Alakazam if you want to. It does the
Yeah.
same thing.
So essentially, what I'm saying is, in relation to Alakazam, if it's better than Alakazam,
It's better than
It is,
Alakazam.
and it's nowhere
And
near
Alakazam's
A.
not the same.
No, we pretty much already know the A
So
ones.
yeah, so I'm saying
So we're
it's
thinking
B.
B.
Yeah.
It's B.
Okay. Up next is Banette Omastar.
I would say B for that one.
Okay, so if we're saying it's B, is it better or worse than Articuno Lock?
Well,
I'd say it's better just because I feel like it's a little bit more consistent than it.
it's better, but
I
at
don't
the
think
same
Articuno's
time,
that consistent.
it's not the Banette Vileplume.
Banette Vileplume is definitely better.
Banette Vileplume is definitely better than Banette Omastar.
Spoilers, I think Banette Omastar is B, and Banette Vileplume.
Banette
Is A.
Vileplume is A.
Yeah, I think Banette Vileplume is A. I
Yeah.
agree with that.
Because I have played a lot of Banette.
It's a very fun deck.
Mhm.
It
I
really
also
is.
got two cards banned from
From those decks.
from those decks.
3. Anyway,
Yeah, technically 3 because one of them hadn't come out yet.
Are we doing ranks within tiers?
Yes, I think it's being ranked within tiers.
Okay.
So up next then is going to be Blacephalon.
I'd say
honestly, I think this probably settles down into low B.
yeah, I
or
would
maybe
say
high
B.
C.
Yeah, I would say honestly B because it definitely does still have the damage output and it's a very easy deck to actually get going. It just does have bad matchups.
So it has bad matchups, but the bad matchups are the matchups where it has to do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
If it has to do a lot of damage, especially against a 2-prizer like Dragapult, it struggles.
And Dragapult can also just be like, haha,
So for those not familiar again with the Eternal format, though, I think we should recap. I think we skipped over the recaps for the Banettes and the Blacephalon.
So yeah, we'll hit them real quick. So Banette, basically the idea is you're item locking your opponent and then hitting them with Banette's Poltergeist. So Poltergeist is going to do 60 damage for each trainer card in your opponent's hand. And if they can't play any item cards in their hand, they're going to kind of struggle to get those out of their hand, which means you're going to be hitting them for quite a lot of damage. Banette Vileplume does that with an ability or with a Pokemon Power, or Pokepower rather, on either Vileplume from Undaunted or Vileplume from Ancient Origin. So either way, you're item locking fairly quickly there.
And then
Banette Omastar does the same thing, but with Omastar, you have to have fewer Pokemon in play than your opponent does. So you don't get item locked with Omastar. Vileplume item locks both players. The difference is with Vileplume, you can have however many Pokemon you want out. You just are limited in what you can do in terms of items because you are not.
You have a surprise secret weapon with Almastar, don't you?
Well, let me talk about the Banette Vileplume real quick.
Sure.
So there is a Vileplume that is also in that list that I have won 2 tournaments with, and that is the Basics Can't Attack one.
That's from Burning Shadows.
Yeah.
Also a very
So
big part
that
of
is
Vileplume
another
there, yeah.
Vileplume that is very important in that deck.
And of course, the Almastar, like I said, it has the swirl Almastar also, right? To like de-evolve.
Yes, so the Omastar does have a trick up its sleeve. It's able to devolve your opponent's Pokemon, and because it's not an attack, you then shuffle all them away and just
you're still within your turn. You can still do stuff after you.
It can be pretty evil.
Yeah. And then Blacephalon.
Blacephalon has its Fireball Circus attack. Fireball Circus is going to do 50 damage for each energy you're discarding from your hand, their fire energy specifically. So you not only need to get 3 fire energy onto Blacephalon, you also need to fill your hand with fire energy. You do have ways to do that. Things like Earthen Vessel. Some versions of the deck even play Giant Hearth. There's also Fire Crystal that lets you get some fire energy out of the discard pile. There are ways, absolutely, to get fire energy into your hand. The biggest problem is getting enough to deal with the high HP.
So just a stronger version of essentially the deck that was played in Standard when that was.
It's a more potent version of that.
Yeah.
It has Victini. It plays a lot of the same cards it used to play. It just has Claydol instead of Pidgey or Pidgeotto. So that's Blacephalon. Up next is Blastoise Water Box.
D immediately because it's played by Ray.
Okay. Just because Ray plays it doesn't mean it's bad. Actually, I think it's probably an A-tier.
It is definitely an A-tier. It works more often than not.
Caleb's also been playing it lately, and it is A.
It's a really good deck. Caleb's version plays 1/1 Palkia line. I don't think it's necessary, honestly, but it does work.
It's primarily in there for the Star Portal.
I know, but still. But Blastoise Water Box, it runs a copy of Deluge Blastoise. It runs a copy of Rain Dance Blastoise. It's able to get a crap ton of water energy in play. It can blow things up with Chinpow. It can nuke stuff with Radiant Greninja. It's very flexible, and it's got some really good power behind it.
I would recommend, honestly, putting it above Vileplume Banette.
Do you think it would be the case?
I think it sets up more than that. I think this is something that it's contentious, but they're both pretty much the same.
I have played a lot of the Banette Vileplume against that deck. It does shut it down really hard.
Sure, but are we rating it against each other because they're in the same tier, or are we rating it as overall?
You
and
asked
the rest
if it
of
was
the
above
competition?
Banette. I said no.
Correct. No. So that's not my question. My question is, what makes it better? Is it better because it shuts itself down, or is it better because it works best against the rest of the map?
The Blastoise deck relies very heavy on items.
So that's the next point. So basically, he's saying, forget the matchup. Doesn't matter about the matchup. How does it do in general in the format?
In general,
so does Blastoise do better overall in the format than Vileplume does? Or
okay, am I playing my usual deck?
Doesn't matter. In general.
In general, I do feel like at the current moment in the format, Banette Vileplume.
You think so?
Because there are a lot of decks right now that are very item heavy.
That's true, and actually, people.
I am okay with either one being over the other one. Honestly, I think Blastoise is a little bit overall, but I can concede that point.
And I have played against both with also a lot of my others that are on this list that we'll get to, and I will say if I didn't have certain cards at certain moments, the Banette Vileplume is definitely a worse matchup for decks that I have played versus the Water Box.
my counterpoint to that would have been that I feel like Banette definitely does, obviously if you're item locked, a lot of decks obviously get shut down.
Yeah.
True, but it is harder to maintain the item lock and keep the item lock than it is for Waterbox to do its thing. I think it's more consistent.
I don't know that it's that hard to set up Alpha.
No, it's not.
It's really not.
So yeah, I would be okay with leaving Bioplume.
It's just
I just think they're very even.
You have to time when you set it up, because you also have to remember, like, okay, am I far enough set up with other stuff to where I don't have to rely on my items anymore? Because Banette Vileplume does also have stuff that is still
timing is important for any deck. But yes, like I said, I feel like they're both equally there, and yes, I will concede Banette being over Black.
At least currently.
Yeah.
Currently, Banette over Blastoise.
Okay. Next up is Turbo Buzzmosa.
You talk more about that one.
Okay. All right. So Buzzmosa, the general idea behind the deck is that you're knocking two of your own Pokemon out so that you can get your opponent into B-string range and then B-string a bunch of energy into play. It used to run Miss Magius, can't do that anymore. It's probably going to be running Electrode now. Electrode, of course, going to knock itself out and throw a bunch of energy from the top of the deck into play. And then you use Beast Game GX to immediately take 4 prize cards, typically against a support Pokemon like Claydol. You're able to boost your damage with stuff like Muscle Band or with Plus Power or Beast Energy. There are lots of different ways you can boost your energy or boost your damage output with Beast Game and do enough damage to take those support Pokemon out for 4 prize cards. And then, of course, there's Elegant Soul to get an initial 2 prize cards earlier on in the game. It's not bad. It's a pretty decent deck, but
I feel like it can be played around if you already know what your opponent's like.
Yeah, it's probably not especially good in the best of 3, but it also kind of suffers against decks that are really bulky, higher HP Pokemon, kind of ruin its strategy.
Yeah, I feel like Miraidon variants would probably
Miraidon variants around the Pidgey and stuff. There's squishy stuff. I'm more thinking about stuff like Future Box or with those kinds of decks. A good example,
Darkrai.
Eternal. Darkrai would be an example. Copperajah is also difficult for it to deal with. I think it's still decent. I'm thinking a low B, high C.
How do we compare it to Blacephalon?
I think it's in that same range. Honestly, I think it's around Blacephalon.
So it's interchangeable with Blacephalon. I'd put it right below Blacephalon then.
I would put it below Blacephalon, because the thing that Blacephalon honestly has going for it is also a single prize deck, as far as that deck's a multi-prize.
Yeah, and there are fire type Pokemon in the format, including Blacephalon. So yeah, it's good. It just has some awkward weaknesses for its strategy. Speaking of what would normally be fire type Pokemon, we have Charizard EX. Charizard EX in Eternal is interesting, and it runs Miraidon to set itself up to get Pidgey and Charmander out.
It also has the Scramble Switch Charizard.
Yes, it does have the Charizard also from Team Up to Scramble Switch into to cause some big headaches for your opponent. I've done it a few times. I've seen Angel.
Yeah, Angel's done it.
Also did the same thing. I lost the game because he Scramble Switched me. That's so frustrating.
I'm gonna say
my own strategy ruined me.
Grayson has tried playing that deck against me. Not probably your exact version, but he's ran a version. But the Smiler likes it.
I say high A.
I think low A.
I'd say low A.
Yeah, okay. I think it's low A.
Because it can. So it is definitely in the A tier, but it is also very you have to have a very specific setup.
Yeah.
And it is, if you don't have that specific setup, it is really, really.
Does the Miraidon liability bring it down that much?
No, not Miraidon.
Because I feel like honestly the setup is Miraidon
just does contribute to it, but there is other stuff.
It's just
what's his weakness? What
Charizard?
Grass.
No, you know what I meant. You know what I meant.
Honestly, Dragapult.
What's his
Dragapult's really bad for it.
Grayson can honestly attest most likely.
Urshifu is also really a bad matchup.
Now, compared to the other ones in A, aren't they also oppressed by the same Dragapult and Urshifu?
They are.
Pretty much everything in format is oppressed by those two
So
decks.
what I'm saying is, what makes those decks better than the Charizard?
Because
they're more flexible.
They're more flexible. They have a lot better matchups, and it's your strategies can be very different. Whereas like that
Charizard is
like
it's
because like the
Charizard.
others do have bad matchups, but they still have ways around those matchups.
So,
as
I
far
would
as
agree with that, yeah.
Charizard's early game is also a lot shakier because he's not doing enough damage early on to be good early on. If that makes sense. It's only doing that.
It's not an early.
Does that change? Would you put in the Dusknoir line? Because that's
You can't.
because it's standard. That's essentially what fixes Charizard.
You can't put the Dusknoir line in.
It's banned.
It's banned in Eternal.
Oh, you're automatically already banned it.
It's
Okay,
banned.
got it. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Trust. Not without testing. Trust me. Not without testing.
So then, yes, 100%. The fix for Charizard's early game is not available.
It's honestly because its early game is just so bad. Is why it's low A.
Is it late game? It's really good.
Yeah.
But the early game is a bit rough.
Okay. I do agree with that.
Up next is Copperajah.
You and Caleb have played.
I've played a lot of it. Caleb's played a lot of
Copperajah.
it. Steven's played a lot of it.
I've played against it a lot.
Yeah, I think it used to be a lot better than it is. The format has gotten a lot faster than Copperajah.
I think at the current moment it's high B. High B, low A.
I think it's high C, low B.
I don't have enough data. I haven't played against it very well.
Okay, in comparison to like Fireball Circus, I would say low B.
I would probably put it just below Blacephalon.
And this is just straight Copperajah relying on its ability, right?
I don't think it's honestly a C tier. I think it's at least a B.
So let's explain the strategy.
So Copperajah is just a very bulky boy. It does 260 damage with Nose Quake and then damages your bench Pokemon. Ideally, you have a Mr. Mime in place so you're not damaging yourself, but sometimes things happen. Like you prize your Mr. Mime every game.
Or
I remember this. I played Caleb at NAIC against it.
Yes,
but it failed.
Yeah,
because it didn't get set up.
And that's the biggest problem that Copperajah has.
Problem is because
if it doesn't set up, and it does fail to set up quite often.
There's one very important card, if I remember correctly. There was like he couldn't get out.
Jasmine.
Yeah.
If you don't hit the Jasmine turn one, you pretty much lose.
Yeah.
Jasmine is really important for that deck, and it's super hard because you really can't afford to run more than one copy of it.
Yep, that's what it was. Yep, you're all right.
Jasmine is the one. But yeah, I think Copperajah is still a fun deck. It's a decent deck. I think right now the deck runs Bronzong, like the different Bronzongs to do like Metal Links, Metal Transfer, and that's a really good strategy. I just think it's too slow.
Copperajah at the current moment is too slow for the format.
That's just kind of its problem. I think it could be built in a different way to make it not too slow for the format, but the current builds of Copperajah are definitely not A, not S. Up next is Lost Box. This is the build with Jirachi, with Cramorant, with Sableye.
So one of my old versions.
An older version of the deck, one that hasn't seen play in a while, but it's a box. It still runs the Mirage Gates. It has some other attackers.
I would say, okay, is this me as the player?
With just anyone.
Just anybody.
The deck you're playing the deck.
Well, no, since I've played it a lot, I would say it at the current moment. I would say high B. For that one,
I think I agree. High B. Do we think it is better than Articuno?
I think it's better than Articuno on the sole factor that Articuno is not item locking it, but the thing with the Banette Amistar is you're not having to deal with the Vileplume, honestly. Like, yes, they can Poltergeist, or they can Everlasting Darkness you, but if...
So once again, we're talking about overall matchup.
Correct.
Yeah.
So don't worry about the matchups inside of the tiers. Just how does it do against everything?
I do think that it's worse than Articuno lock.
Essentially,
I would probably
if you were going to go in and you need to choose a deck against everything in the meta, would you rather have Lost Box or the Articuno lock on your side?
Well, he built Lost Box.
Yeah,
probably say Lost Box.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Lost Box, but I know what's in that deck, so I'm gonna say Lost Box.
So I don't have enough information to say honestly, like how the Eternal variant does against Eternal, and honestly, I don't have enough data about Articuno, so I personally don't have an opinion on this. Jason, it's going to be all up to you because someone...
Well, it's in between the two.
Yeah.
So, because Eternal Lost Box can run Yveltal, it can run Guzzlord, it can run... It has a lot of options. It can do crazy shit.
But I think Ryan has a personal bias because he loves this deck.
No, I don't love that version. That is the old version. That's the one that...
You love all Lost Boxes. Lost Box is what you sold yourself for.
There are ones I like more than others.
Do you feel it's okay? Like, do you feel it's justifiable to put it below Articuno?
I feel like the matchup could be fair.
Forget the matchup. That's what we're trying to remember.
You're asking me against Articuno.
No.
We're not talking about against Articuno. We're talking about each deck overall in the format.
The word against in this case means which one is going over in the tier, not like, them head to head.
Then, yeah, Articuno above. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll leave it there.
So we're good.
Up next is Darkrai.
Darkrai, I would say probably low A.
I think that's generous.
I as somebody that's played that deck a lot, I wish it was low A.
Are we counting the Shrouded Fable stuff?
He's right. We haven't
to be
tested
very
that
clear.
yet.
This Darkrai is without Shrouded Fable.
Without Shrouded Fable,
we have not built around the Shrouded Fable version yet.
Without Shrouded Fable, B.
It's still generous.
Really? Even low B?
The output is so bad on it, honestly.
Is. I think it's C above Alakazam.
I mean, it's still... Yeah, I mean, it's better than Alakazam.
Yeah.
At this point, Alakazam is like... Is it Alakazam tier or not?
And again, I might have a personal bias against it, but I still feel like maybe it's low B.
I have...
Because I feel like there's potential there, and I'm
so
counting a little bit.
There is potential there, but we're talking about the version that is currently...
The version that's currently built, I have played against a lot, but I've also played it.
But you would also say that...
But, I mean, you also gotta be seeing... Like, who's piloting the deck with me.
Well, again, we're talking strictly the decks in a vacuum, so don't worry about who's doing it.
Just a decent player in general.
Yeah.
Okay,
if they're piloting.
So, I guess my question, again, is the comparison of what does better in the overall format. Copperajah, Pheromosa, like, are these objectively better decks than Darkrai at the moment? Yes or no?
I mean, if it's between Copperajah and Darkrai, I'm going to go with Darkrai.
Yeah, I would too, actually.
So, mid-B. Honestly, I feel like mid-B. And maybe we're filling up B a little bit too much, and we need to reconsider the low Bs as high Cs.
I think Copperajah bumps to C.
Yeah,
would mean that Buzzmosa also bumps to C.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're still better than Alakazam.
Yeah, it just doesn't let me sort it that way. So, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Up next is our first S-tier deck. I don't think this is a dispute. Dragapult goes to S. Woo! Dragapult is an absolute fucking monster in this format.
I don't know why you're looking at me like that right now.
You can't see it, but I'm staring at somebody who's won several times with Dragapult. Dragapult is way nastier than its standard format counterpart. It has all the tools. It has double dragon energy. It has
double Pidgeot.
Double Pidgeot. It has so much going for it. It's
very impressive.
It is impressive.
And this is coming from an Urshifu player.
For those that don't know, yes, I have won a lot with it. Those that do know me know definitely firsthand what that feels like, just like two people in the room.
Yeah. I think Dragapult is one of the most impressive decks in the format, if not the most impressive deck in the format. It's very much up there. Without question, it goes to S. Durant Mill.
Shout out to Reese for that one.
Reese and Caleb.
Yeah, that's right.
I would
he
say
loves Durant too. Yeah.
I would say
okay. So I'm gonna tell you something right now. Again, currently in standard, I don't have a lot of experience against and playing Durant. But God, did I ever hate this when it was in standard in black and white.
So here's the thing.
So I will pull out
viewing it as in the current meta.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely not A.
No.
I honestly don't even think it might be B.
I think it'd be high C.
I think high C.
And I think the biggest problem that Durant has right now is that it has such low HP.
Yeah.
And Urshifu and Dragapult are both just...
Well, and then Banette just says, like, haha.
Oh, yeah, Banette Valkyrie just ends it, too.
Yeah, because that's one of the decks that I beat with the basics can't attack.
Oh yeah,
So
that's true.
because S-tier is so oppressive, Durant
Well,
just literally
so
gets run into the
with-
C
Well,
tier.
even some of the stuff from A tier makes it so it just can't win.
Well,
Because like Blastoise double KOs Durant.
Yeah.
So because you can.
If they're taking double KOs, it's very hard because like
'cause
as long as I can KO you faster than you're milling me, it doesn't matter.
Blastoise canceling colognes, then if it wants to, if it runs it, it can drop Velocity, Laws on the Manaphy, and Lost Zone, or not Manaphy, the Mime, and then knocks on one of the Durant, and at that point Durant just starts to hobble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean, yeah, I agree. Like, it literally, like I said, it got oppressed all the way down to C.
Yeah. And then Gardevoir is next. This is the version of Gardevoir that is aggro. So this is the one that's running Giratina, Drifloon, Espeoxys, all those kinds of variants.
I would say
With a surprise time machine.
Surprise! This is
I love
surprise.
it. I
the
love
surprise
it,
time
Bobby.
machine build. This is an extraordinarily complicated deck.
I was
I
gonna
would
say
say
it's really hard to play.
I don't think it's A, but I think it's high B.
I was thinking
Honestly?
like high B, low A.
I would say low A. Honestly, I'm pushing towards low A. I have not played. I played it myself, and honestly, it feels like really.
Because
really
if we're
smooth.
talking about the
I think-
aggro one,
Aggro, yeah.
yeah,
So-
if we're
so
talking about the aggro one,
Scream Tail, Drifloon. all
I
that stuff.
honestly do think high B, low A.
I'm leaning toward high B. You're saying high B, low A. You're
So
saying
we're literally right in the middle because you're splitting
You
the
want to
difference.
say
And we're
high
saying,
above Articuno?
I think.
I think high B.
Let's put it above Articuno, and then at the recap, see if anything, if it feels like it should go high.
Because we can still shift stuff around.
Yeah.
Sure. Jirachi Mill. So Jirachi Mill, the idea is you're using Team Rocket's Handiwork. You're playing Team Rocket's Handiwork during your turn, and then you're using Detour on Jirachi to copy the effect.
The
the
issue
support card that you
there
played, which is Team
is
Rocket's Handiwork.
it's on a coin flip.
It is, but you can easily mill 4 cards in a turn with just the Team Rocket's Handiwork plus another Team Rocket's
Jirachi.
Yes, but
So-
I mean, again, if it's me, you're gonna mill 8.
Yeah. So
Again, remember,
But
we are not counting your deal with the double
yes,
here. We're
but
looking at this in the vacuum. So for
in the vacuum, it is definitely worse mill than Durant.
is it
I
though?
don't think it is. I just think it's
No.
better than Durant.
Well, that's the thing though. Even on a coin flip, you're netting more cards per
Well,
turn.
here's the thing: like, how many Team Rocket's Handiworks are you running?
4.
Four.
Okay, how many VS Seeker?
4.
Okay, how much search are you getting for the VS Seeker?
What do you mean?
Plenty.
Like, what? Let's say you use a Team Rocket's Handiwork and you don't have VS Seeker or a way to get your other stuff. How are you milling now?
You can say that about any deck.
Yeah, but Durant does it better because Durant's on attack. It's based on Durant's in play.
True.
So
but
the mill is
what-
more
what I'm
consistent with Durant.
so think of it like AOE attacks in like RPGs and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
I
There's
know what you mean.
More
but,
damage
but
per.
viewing it as a
Here's the thing: if you miss a mill with Jirachi, that's okay because overall you are still milling more. And if they knock out your Jirachi, you're searching your deck for
well,
what
yeah.
Yeah, you're recovering very easy.
you recover
I
really
don't-
well with Jirachi mill. I think it's a better mill deck. I think it's a better deck overall than Durant.
I don't
it
think
probably
it's B,
belongs
though.
in C. I don't think it's B either. I think it probably
High
goes in
C.
C, right above Durant.
Right above Durant. I agree with that.
It might be because I also haven't played against that version yet. So, like, just me knowing the Durant very well.
Just the potential of it is it's sickening. I hate Mel, and it makes me want to barf right now just thinking how many cards it can mill per turn.
You glad you didn't play against Subak.
I'll have you talk about this next one because, like, I've seen it, but I haven't played against it,
So
and I know you have.
Hisuian Zoroark V is a pretty potent deck, actually. It does a lot of damage internal. It's able to fill pretty quickly. It doesn't see a lot of play, though. It's kind of weird. It saw play like a year ago.
We have what one player that really is Caleb. I think
Caleb's played it a few times,
Yeah.
and that's about it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the card itself. In fact, I'm actually probably gonna rebuild it in standard with Area 0. I'm really trying to make it work.
Yeah, it's
I
fun,
have
think.
not played it in Eternal, and I want to.
So in Eternal, it does play Dodrio, which
I
is
mean, you do need a new deck.
it plays Eternal. It plays Dodrio in Eternal, just like it would in Standard.
Mm.
And Dodrio is a good attacker, too.
It hits like a truck.
Mhm,
It really does. I think
We don't have enough.
it's one of those cases.
It
where
hasn't shown up enough
It's just.
so that we can really test how good it
between.
is.
I feel like it's between that.
I think we're gonna make D tier maybe if it actually saw some play. How do we go with that?
I
Yeah.
think that should be our E tier though. We still need a D tier. We still need a trash tier.
How do I
It's not trash though.
We need a trash tier for all of Ryan's decks.
Why? Because I have Beelzebub?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a D tier here. Change this to
I have played either like 90% of the stuff on the screen so far.
no, it's not.
Same pink. Pink is probably just different enough.
Well, I want.
Or you want a gradient?
Yeah, I was gonna go with gradient. Like this one red. Okay. Blue.
Blue.
Maybe it's live. Okay.
Yeah, that'll work.
Maybe it actually saw something. All right, let's stick that there.
Yeah, I agree. We just don't have not enough data.
Okay. Up next is Lost Surge. This is amazing rare Kyogre doing 80 damage to everything on your opponent's side, dropping Lost City, murdering your Manaphy, taking your girlfriend, doing all the things it's not supposed to do, and then winning anyway.
Yeah.
Amongst other things, because I also have because this is specifically my deck.
So-
I have Retaliate, Zamazenta. I actually have 2 of them. I have Cram, I have Sableye, I have De-Evolution, so A.
I think it's
Like,
high A, above,
It is
above that bottom.
very, very impressive. I cannot tell you honestly how, like, I haven't won with this deck, but I have come very close multiple times with it. But the thing is when there are certain decks that people know I will play, that if they forget about it for a while and I show up with it, and this is one of those decks, it is so oppressive because it is so hard to actually play against.
Let me, and I don't know enough about the deck. What's the setup for it? Like, what's
Basically, you just
you
chill
don't-
for a while behind Jirachi while
Yeah.
you get into Mirage Gate territory.
it's a lost zone engine?
It is a lost zone,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah,
So,
that's what it is. Yeah.
yeah, it's a Lost Zone engine.
I should have
it
known
is-
if you were playing it.
It is definitely a Detour Jirachi setup. You do not want to overbench. You at least ideally want 1 to 2 bench slots free. People know my strategy already with it. So one of the things that I do with it, because people know that I build a lot of different Lost Box decks, I do not drop the Kyogre until I am ready to gate to it, because I'm not going to tell them like, hey, I am coming for the widespread.
So essentially, you're playing a standard lost box until it's too late.
Well, semi-standard because you're playing Jirachi, not comfy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, it's a pretty.
And then
you just
I
chill and play
also
Color.
I also run Raihan in it. I run Clara. So like there is definitely ways to keep it going.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
it's really good.
the entire thing relies around the setup of
Kyogre,
Kyogre.
the amazing rare Kyogre.
Kyogre and Jirachi, because like the Jirachi is getting knocked out. You actually prefer some of them getting knocked out so you can fetch those.
And you
cards.
said Amazing Rare Kyogre
Yes,
does
yeah.
80?
80 to
Amazing
all
Surge to
their
every-
board.
Everything. How does it do against like big basic Pokemon? decks and stuff?
Retaliate.
Like the Zamazenta?
Yeah, the Zamazenta. I've been wanting to actually maybe take out one of the Zamazentas and throw in a Blood Moon Urshifu EX.
Again, I have not played against this deck. That's probably why I'm asking. But it really above all 3 of those decks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it is.
I want to play against
So
it. now.
if you are the unlucky one that does hit the Banette Vileplume, it stinks. But against everything else on that list, even actually the Dragapult, it can
The thing is,
How
actually.
impressive is it to
Banette
your overall
Vileplume?
format?
Banette Vileplume can win against it. It can.
Banette Vileplume has probably the strongest
Yeah.
against it. Even against the Dragapult, it would still give Dragapult a challenge.
Yeah.
Like
Dragon
it's
Ball
that
hurts.
high on
Yeah.
the A. It's not S, but it is that high on A.
Yeah, because I think it's up in the front of A, not just because of how it matches up against the rest of A, but because of how it can deal with the S tier.
I get you.
Like,
Okay. Like I said, I don't have enough data. So
Outside of everything that will be an S tier, it probably has the strongest chance of competing against the S tiers.
why don't you play it more?
Because like
it
I
can be
said,
countered.
because the second I pull that deck back out, just like with the Banette, it is one of those decks where they are that oppressive with how I have them built that people will immediately tech for them the next
and not
week.
just tech, but like they'll build specific decks. Or
Yeah.
play specific decks to beat that deck.
I gotcha.
Because it is that oppressive. Like it's one of those like it's like kind of like a one trick, like it's a multi-trick pony, but it is when you know it's there and you now remember it, like it definitely one that can be countered, but it's one of those ones where it's like when you forget it, like you wish you didn't forget it.
So we apparently future sighted Jolteon into S tier.
Yes,
Oh, it
he
is.
did. It's and I don't think it's not just. I think it's not just S tier. I think it's
Yeah.
the top of the S tier.
Yeah.
Light Jolteon is one of the most oppressive decks.
Hi.
If not the most oppressive deck in format. It is right up there with Dragapult. They're like deciding who the boss is.
It's Jolteon.
And Jolteon is probably the boss though, because Dragapult even has a hard time dealing with Jolteon.
Just Ranger.
That's not enough. It's not enough anymore. Jolteon is an extremely oppressive deck. It has a lot of tools available to it that kind of make it just super
Because
strong.
honestly, I was just thinking, like, again, when I heard about it, I was like, cool, let's poke it. And then you just told me that it heals the pokes every turn.
Just rough season away.
Jesus. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, Light Jolteon it has its ways to deal with stuff. So yeah, I think Light Jolteon is probably the best deck in the format right now. Which is
With the new
crazy
edition
to
that
say.
you said, yes.
Yeah.
With the one that I still have built outside of that new edition, I would say, honestly, with the Jolteon that I have built, I would put Dragapult over it.
Let me ask you this. And this is is it the Natu that attacks twice and stuff like that?
Talking about Blindside now too?
I believe so.
Well, it's the Bumblebee and the Natu
because
it's their origin.
Sure.
Yeah,
This deck here.
if it attacks once and then twice and it hits under 20, it can get around that, right?
Yeah, because it's two separate attacks.
So Blindside Natu doesn't attack twice.
No, I'm thinking about the Bumblebee.
Yeah.
For the Bumblebee, you're milling.
I mean,
Or
if you build it that way, but yeah, but like you can do Bumblebee, like a variant of Bumblebee to like hit
If
it or
it
something
does,
like that.
if it does exactly 20, but if it does more than 20, then it's not going to
Correct.
get through Jolteon.
So it does 20 on one hit, and then it hits again for 20.
Yeah, because it's two separate attacks.
Okay, that I was just brainstorming essentially, remembering that
So,
Bumblebee.
but yeah, Light Jolteon, I don't think there's any dispute.
Nope.
Top of S tier. Malamar. This is Malamar box with
This is the one that I
Giratina
played
from
against.
Lost Thunder. The one that
I played Light Jolteon against.
the one that Konga played very poorly, but yes.
Mhm.
I would say okay. From somebody that has played against it, from my experience, I'm going to say Hype B.
I think that's
But
fair.
but you as the person that has
No,
played
I think
it,
that's fair. I think high B is probably fair. I would put it probably below.
I remember.
it's definitely below the Guardy.
So the Malamar.
I would honestly probably put it between the Articuno and the Lost
I think
Box.
I was thinking either here or here between these two or these.
I'm trying to remember.
I think
the
with
deck.
the generic Lost Box, it still has a shot against.
Again, remember, don't compare
it's
the
not-
matchups.
okay.
Not a matchup thing. I think it's either here or here.
I would say below the Lost Box
I
because
think Last Box has better matchups overall.
Sorry, quick question. The Malamar, I remember being an accelerator. What's the main attacker again? Because I think I remember it as a different deck.
Giratina or Necrozma. The version I built is built around Giratina primarily,
Uh-huh.
but it also has access to Ultra Necrozma GX and Necrozma V.
I want to say Ultra Necrozma is the one that I'm remembering, and I was like, okay, yeah,
it's good and it does have good matchups,
just don't hit Light Jolteon.
but or play it better. But the thing with Malamar is that it's such a shaky set. It has a semi Copperajah issue, but I think it's still more consistent than Copperajah. And because it's very single price heavy and that it can recur the Giratina, I think it has a better shot overall.
Okay. So next is the reason why I asked you to make D tier pink. Both of these decks. No, I'm kidding.
So
The
Meloetta-
Meloetta Donk, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I honestly do think it's below the Buzzwole.
And if I remember correctly,
But
this is
I would
Donk
still
deck.
put it. Yeah, it's solely a
Well,
Donk deck.
It's
And
around fusions.
it's not quite a non deck because it can still work past the first turn, but it doesn't do very well overall.
But just to clarify, this is essentially the eternal version of Fusion Strike, Meloetta, and Fusion Strike.
It is
Yeah,
a
it's
Fusion Strike Meloetta.
it's literally
With
just like a
Eternal stuff.
Fusion Strike deck.
It runs the Genesect. It runs like a 1/1 or 2/2 Claydol line often. It's just not that good. It's not. Yes, it can win games, especially if the format is really heavy on multi-prizers, which it often isn't. And then, like, if they have really high HP, like stuff like Dragapult, for example, or even Urshifu. Obviously, we were hitting weakness there, but stuff like Urshifu, we had the high HP.
If you're going against Dragapult, you're
never winning.
You can't even one-shot it unless you have the power tablets.
Yeah, and you have to have them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it feels like, okay, cool, you just got over this one Dragapult, you just wasted all your resources, now what?
Because the thing with the format is you're not going to waste your ace spec for maximum belt just to do the fixed on the math.
Yeah, okay. I think that it's exactly where it needs to be.
Okay, our first D tier contender. Mew Vmax.
As somebody that is a very avid Mew player in here, it hurts me to agree, but I agree.
Mew Vmax gets shut down very, very hard in this format.
And that's not even going against Darkrai. There is just so much stuff that it
can't handle.
The only deck in format that deck will actually succeed against is Urshifu because of the weakness.
Even then, that's kind of questionable.
I didn't realize it was that bad in Eternal. I had never played against it.
Horrible in Eternal.
Really?
Yes. It gets
well, hold on. So maybe okay. So as good as the deck is, it's because the engine, like Mew Vmax, needs its entire engine to be good. And in Eternal, there's so much other tools that complete. I get it. I get it. Why? Yeah.
You throw so many wrenches in the engine of Mew Vmax that Mew Vmax ends up limping around.
So so essentially, Mew Vmax will only work with Mew Vmax. With the Mew Vmax deck itself, you cannot shift from it, and because everything else shifts, it gets left behind.
For the record, I have tried making that deck work so many times in Eternal secretly, and it just doesn't.
It just does not work. It's too weak.
It literally,
that's so funny to say.
It literally only has one good matchup in this whole.
It literally lives in its own bubble. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's not good.
It lives in Mew's bubble. I love it. Okay.
Next is Pidgeot Miraidon. This is the more traditional build of Miraidon with the Pidgeot engine.
Not the very first build, but the one after it that I played.
This is not the first build. This is the one with
this is the one when you unbanned the electric generator one.
Yes. So
okay.
Electric generator, max elixir, both legal.
Okay. What's your main attackers in Miraidon?
Typically
Miraidon, Raikou.
It does run Raikou. It runs Iron Hand.
This is not the Turbo Hand.
So this is not Turbo Hand. So this is essentially closer.
I would say.
Let me finish my sentence. This is essentially closer to the original Miraidon list with Pidgeot, right? Like
no, because the original one ran 6 energies. This is literally electric generators. It's Turbo Miraidon.
This one does. Well, it's not Turbo, but
again, it's essentially a traditional Miraidon. And what I mean by traditional Miraidon, like the stuff that was in standard with Eternal tools and Pidgeot.
Yes.
Okay.
It's very similar.
It's Miraidon.
When you said original Miraidon, our original Miraidon was literally a whole lot slower.
Yeah, it was very slow. I do think this is probably low A.
Yeah, I'd say low A.
That good, huh?
Yeah, because it actually does have fair, decent, good matchups. And
above Guardy?
Because Iron Hands, honestly.
Iron Hands claps Guardy pretty hard.
Yeah. But again, we're not talking matchups, though.
Well, yeah, but...
It claps everything else.
Turbo Hands.
So essentially, this discussion is really: is it better with more Iron Hands, or is it better with less Iron Hands?
Okay, if it's the Turbo Hands version that I have built with the change, that I said that I wanted after that tournament, yeah.
I think it just goes right above the regular version. Because Turbo Hands...
honestly, because it's a very early to mid game deck, I would actually put it above the Charizard because the Charizard wants the late game.
Okay, I think that's fair. I think it can move there.
And because I would almost put it above Blastoise, but Blastoise actually just has so much better stuff right now in the format than the Turbo Hands.
Yeah,
but the Turbo Hands can really mess up that deck. Because it can easily hit the numbers even to knock out the Chen Pao, and everything else it just hits for weakness and just takes either 2 or 3 prizes with
that's
Iron
fair.
Hands.
But remember, we're not comparing it to the inside of it.
Yeah, but it's definitely above the Charizard because the Charizard wants late game, but the Turbo Hands wants early mid game.
And just for clarification, the Circulator Mantine.
So Power Circulator basically forces your top deck to be an energy. So you're guaranteeing that you're hitting Max Elixir or Generator.
Yeah. So, does the other one still play the Mantine?
No.
Never plays it.
Okay.
Because that one's like full
And
Pidgeot.
some versions of the Turbo don't even play that. But
Yeah.
Blindside Natu. So Blindside Natu is a very fun one where you're playing Natu from I think it's Ancient Origins.
Yeah.
It might be Primal Dash. But it's Natu. It has a ancient trait that lets it take an extra prize card when it takes a knockout. So with Blindside, you're doing 100 damage when your opponent's bench Pokemon. And oftentimes you're going against really squishy Pokemon like Claydol. So you'll snipe it, knock it out, take 2 prize cards off of Claydol. You'll just keep doing that. And early on, if you need to, of course, you knock out the Manaphy or whatever it is and lost summon to get rid of it.
So here's the thing.
Mhm.
I'm going to put it either high C or low B.
I think low...
Because if you look at most of the decks right now in format, yes, do have some squishy stuff, but also more decks actually have very bulky stuff, which it does not do well against.
Yes, but most things have something that's squishy, which it can take advantage of.
Yes, but again, I'm not trying to match up it, but especially with the 2 Lost Box decks in B and A tier, as somebody that has bodied it, they will body it. It doesn't even matter how squishy the stuff on the Lost Box players board is. It doesn't matter that you're taking 2 prizes at a time because I'm taking out your whole field at the time.
So what you're saying is, again, and this is not a matchup situation, because what you're saying is the same way that Dragapult pushes some decks just down because it's so high, you're saying that Lost Box... There's enough Lost Box in the high tiers that it pushes it down to C.
There's enough Lost Box decks that aren't the Mill variant that it most likely will not beat.
Okay, so we're thinking low B, high C.
Yeah, I'm thinking high C, low B. Because the reason why I would say low B is because that Articuno paralyzes, so they can't attack. But everything else in that B tier either has enough HP to where it takes more than 2 attacks.
They're bullying the poor Natu, as you're saying. I still think if that's the case, then it goes down to high C then.
I think it's high C, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might be maybe right below Durant.
Oh wow, okay. I was thinking top of C, but you're saying that far down?
What do you think, Ryan? You played against it.
Yeah, I would put it below Durant because that deck does go through a lot of resources, so it would go below the Mills.
Well, in general, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, if we're putting it in that tier, like looking at the...
Like, does Durant do better in the format?
Durant does do better in the format currently.
Okay.
Ultra Necrozma.
Woohoo!
A.
I say A.
It's definitely... It's kind of hard.
I like where you just put it.
Well,
honestly.
So here's the thing, because I have played again. I'm not trying to match up typos because I have played a lot. I personally think Ultra Necrozma is over the Blastoise because Garbotoxin.
I have literally played this matchup over and over again against Ray, and I don't know if it's a pilot or not, but I do agree with Ryan on this one. Ultra Necrozma over Blastoise.
So that used to be the case, but
are we taking consideration of the Poke Power now?
Well, right, because Ray runs the Poke Power too.
Okay, so
both versions or both the decks that have been played a lot here locally now.
I think they're about equal. They're equal.
That's fair. I still think Ultra Necrozma is slightly worse.
With the addition of the Poke Power now, sure. But if we were just relying on the Deluge, then it would be over.
We're talking about current one. So okay.
If we're talking about current one, sure,
the
below.
The current popular build of Blastoise runs Deluge, the ability, and Rain Dance, the Pokemon power.
Yeah. And just to clarify, we don't have any successful, like, really good way, or at least not reliable way, to shut down the Poke Power in that deck.
Yet, but we'll talk more about that when the Stellar Crown ban list update comes out.
Cool.
Celestalization?
No. Cessation does not put down.
The Station Crystal would shut it down.
It
Yes.
does.
So
Okay. But I know it plays it. I just didn't know it.
Then it would be
actually
above the Blastoise with the Cessation Crystal.
It already plays it though. That's the
It does
thing.
already play it.
And I think what he means is that the Cessation Crystal isn't enough because you have
not enough.
a lot. Like I mean, sure you could double play it. And again, I remember playing this exact matchup, but he did not have the Rain Dance Blastoise just yet. So
I think they're very.
I think
close.
they're equal.
They're really close.
I think they're about equal.
Yeah, I can
now,
see- I can see
and I
arguments
think we're
that way.
falling into the pitfall again, like comparing them to that. Which one does better against the rest of the meta?
Blastoise, I think, does better against the rest of the meta. Ultra Necrozma has some very good matchups, but Blastoise, I think, has a better baseline, if that makes sense.
I agree with that. Okay, so I mean, honestly, I feel like they're very equal, but I don't dislike Blastoise over Necrozma.
Yeah.
Because they're both good. They're both very good decks.
Yes.
They're definitely worth playing. And if what happens come Surging Sparks happen, if what I think is going to happen come Surging Sparks, Ultra Necrozma might step above it, but we'll see. Up next, Palkia.
Hi. A. I
don't want to have that discussion again. Please put it under Necrozma. I don't want to have this discussion
I
again.
don't think it's under Necrozma. Sorry. I think it's actually probably.
I think it's actually above the Blastoise
Interesting.
because, well, okay, so I have one with it. Yeah, I it's just so fast because like you honestly don't even need Dive Ball. It's that fast.
It's really fast. I think.
I will.
So
Abstain.
you haven't played against the Eternal version of Palkia yourself,
I haven't.
Christian?
No. Mhm.
You've played against it.
Yes, I have. I'm going to help him understand how it feels to play against it. Remember when you played against the new version of Palkia?
I am aware. I'm
Make
aware.
that, but faster.
Well, yeah, because that's Skyfield. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm aware. I'm aware of what it does. I'm
This guy's like
I'm
Highfield,
abstaining
and
just because
I also have Fiona.
I am abstaining only because I don't have enough data or have played it with it or against it. But in theory, it is exactly where it needs to be.
Yeah, I think it's
It also has Battle Compressor.
it is a very good deck.
Yes.
It's not oppressive, but
It is not
very
oppressive.
good.
It just hits very hard, very fast.
Yes, it is good. Up next is Palafin EX.
Okay. I can't see that thing being any better than it is in standard.
If we're not putting it into that tier, I would almost put it in D tier. If it's not in D tier, it's definitely below out.
I have not seen enough people play with it for me to like stay D tier.
I have,
but it's so bad in standard that I can't see it.
I have
being
seen people try to make it work on the
Eternal,
Discord.
You can run Garbotoxin to shut off the ability on Palafin.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh,
that you
okay,
can
yeah,
walk straight into it.
that's true. Okay.
So it does work.
It
And
does.
then you have access to Floatal GL level X, I think it is.
Okay, which again, you still need it. It's a big combo-y. So
It is.
It
It is.
again, I don't think any of us have played or played against it too much, so that's why it's going in the maybe if it actually saw some play. But if it weren't the case, let's say for example, in theory, is it better or worse than Alakazam?
I think it's better than Alakazam. It's more
So
consistent.
so if we had enough data, we'd put it over Meloetta. Does Meloetta break more than it does?
No, Miraidon really doesn't
No,
break.
it'd be better, I think, overall. I think Palafin just needs to see more play before we rank it.
Yeah.
Because, like, I can
It feels
gauge
very
some of its matchups against some of the meta, but I don't think it's seen enough play for me to really feel confident.
it feels very Hisui and Zoroark.
It does, it does.
V-Star, yeah.
Speaking of decks in that
Mew Mew.
ballpark, Mew Mew hasn't seen play in quite a while.
No, because the last time that I saw play with, I think, was Lyle.
But I think there's a reason for that. I think
Really?
I think it's just
It
got
did
3 prizes
really-
in a row.
That
really
ability
bad.
is so good. Nobody can find anything to do with it.
Oh, you can find stuff to do it. You're a
It's just there's
3-prizer.
yeah, you're a 3-prizer with your ability that can also get shut
what's
off
its
so
HP?
easy.
270?
273
Yeah.
Prizer.
That's-
Oh.
You get crunched pretty easy.
Yeah, because even the Meloetta can hit that.
Yeah, it can just get crunched so fast. And then there's a bunch of ability hate on top of it.
Yeah, because even like
Yeah, it's not
honestly,
good for it.
Alolan Muck just shuts it off because it's a basic.
Yeah.
Like they like
No, okay, well, okay. How many decks are running Alolan Muck?
Well, one, but Garbodor is also around and
Yeah.
sees a lot more play. and also shuts it down, and is harder for Mew Mew to deal with, and then Mew Mew is already a 3-prizer, and you can.
I think your best point of contention right there would have been 3-prizer, 270 HP. Yeah, you're right. Again, it's too squishy for it to be. It doesn't survive very well.
It doesn't, and it's sad, but it doesn't. Up next is Regigigas.
I would say A.
You think it's A? I think it's probably B.
Boo.
Well, okay.
I think it might be top of B, like above Guardy even. I don't think it quite makes it to A. If Caleb were here, he would probably fight us on this.
Well, and Lyle. Not Lyle, Grayson. Because Grayson's ran it a lot.
I know, they both have run it, but...
It does have a lot of versatility, actually. Santiago's also played it.
He has. There have been a bunch of players playing it. It's not an unpopular deck. And it does have a lot of good matchups.
Here's the thing, is
like... Just, if you get hit with Ability Lock, you're done.
But here's the thing, is I honestly think the Regis is better than the Miraidon Pidgeot.
You think so?
I think. That's why I'm saying, like, low A.
I think if we think it's better than Miraidon
If we think that it's better than the
Miraidon, wrong tier.
But the thing is like it. So the Miraidon Pidgeot is, I think the Turbo Hands is better than the Miraidon Pidgeot. But at the same time, I mean, this might just be because honestly I've played against it a lot. I think that's probably where my brain is. Against everything else in the field, then yeah, B.
I haven't played against Miraidon Pidgeot a lot, but it seems very vanilla to me.
It is a pretty vanilla deck.
It is a very vanilla deck.
I feel like vanilla decks don't belong in A tier, and Regigigas goes above.
Well, see, the thing is the reason why that deck is in the A tier is because of Iron Hands. There's a lot of decks right now that have the squishy, low HP.
Iron Hands helps the matchup a lot.
If Iron Hands was not in that deck, Miraidon Pidgeot would not be an A.
How's Reggie's matchups against everything?
I think it does overall okay.
Then I think it's perfect where it is. High of B. Yeah. I don't think it's an A tier. So, I think it's high of B.
I mean, it's like literally my argument. It might honestly because I have played against it.
Right. I just think it's overall okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, if he makes a great point about Miraidon Pidgeot has the Iron Hands and a lot of squishy stuff gets knocked out, so that makes it better against the overall meta.
Let me ask you this: with that Reggie deck, are we doing the traditional Regirock that it plays, or the one that Santiago decided to say screw me specifically with?
Well, it doesn't matter either build.
Well, no, because the more common one is actually the Reggie with the origin tree.
But does it?
That's why I'm asking. Yeah. Are we going the more traditional build with that one, or are we...
Does it make a difference? Because I don't think it makes a difference against all the meta.
It does.
What's the biggest difference? I guess that I don't know.
Honestly, explain to the viewers / listeners.
It's because the attack on the Regirock. The origin trait Regirock is there because, or the ancient trait is because of its ancient trait. The other one is there is because the attack.
Okay, so what did they do?
Ancient trait prevents you from gusting it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like, if we're going with that, the most obvious one, where it is literally the gust one.
So we have to ask ourselves the question: how prevalent is Gust in the format?
Very.
Guzma.
So then
Guzma is literally everywhere.
So then I don't know that the Gust protection is actually that useful.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying. Okay, cool. So that's the next question. So the fact that it can't be gusted, does it make a difference, making it a better deck against overall meta? It feels very situational, and I don't think it would make a big difference.
Literally because it has.
It does make a difference, and it would make a difference.
It has the Amazing Rare Yveltal. It has Guz Lord.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, it makes a difference, and it makes it better than the standard one, but it doesn't move it from its position. I don't think overall it makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think.
And again, I think it's honestly because I've played against it a lot. I think that's where my brain is just stuck.
I think, but do you agree? High B, it's actually where it is.
Yes. Yeah. If we're doing the tier, then yes.
I didn't understand that.
Sure.
Again, it's probably just because I have played against it, and that's why I'm like wanting to put it above the Miraidon.
So if we feel like Miraidon Pidgeot.
But the thing is the Miraidon Pidgeot also is below A because it's literally solely because of that Iron Hands.
But
and the Iron Hands
Regigigas has Guzzlord.
Yeah, but the thing is with the Guzzlord taking 2 prizes with the knockout is it does you the thing with it is you also have electro power. You have no way
It's
of
easier to
boosting
do
the
it with
attack
Iron
damage
Hands than
on
it
the
is with Guzzlord,
And
so-
plus the
So then it's justifiably where it is.
Exactly where it is. We're
but
all in agreement.
again, I'm gonna agree with where it is, but I think it's honestly because I have played against it.
So much.
Yeah.
Okay. Up next is Rapid Strike Urshifu.
High A. High A, do not
It
add
is
me.
S.
That's
sorry.
because it's your version.
Look. Hey, so it's S tier with everybody else. It's high A with
It
me.
is S
No,
tier. Literally the only honestly outside of Light Jolteon, the only deck keeping that deck in check is Dragapult.
It is
If you
100%.
remove Dragapult from the equation, Urshifu will be very dominant. But if you remove Urshifu from the equation in the S tiers, Dragapult will also be very predominant.
So I'm playing devil's
they
advocate
keep
here.
each other in check.
I'm playing devil's advocate here, right?
Mm.
I'd say you are right, obviously. Dragapult is keeping it kind of in check. I would argue that Banette and something that we haven't ranked just yet, United Wings, has an incredible matchup against it.
I don't know that it's incredible. I'm sorry.
What are you telling me? They don't consider the matchups?
Correct, but I'm saying depending on where
He's
United
saying-
Wings
He's
falls,
trying to say that it has decks that can deal.
that check it. Dragapult is not the only thing that checks it.
Yeah,
And
it's like I was saying with
Which-
the Regis versus the
Which is
Miraidon.
why I'm saying that there are enough checks in the format to make it high A rather
It's
than
not
than a low
I
S.
think
S.
it's low S, not
It's
high A.
it's not A, but it's not like above. I don't think it's above Dragapult.
I think you guys are underestimating how many checks it has.
Okay, the same can be said with Amazing Surge versus Dragapult.
I agree with you.
Every
What's your
deck,
point?
every deck can have a check, but like
No. It's how many checks in the meta it has to keep it, like you said, in line. I think Urshifu has enough decks that are keeping it in line, not just Dragapult.
But here's the
I
thing.
think that's a misconception.
But here's the thing: not that many people are honestly gonna play United Wings. Like, yes, it's a fun deck, but here's the thing: yes, United Wings has a very good matchup, possibly against Urshifu.
That's what I said.
But against Dragapult, United Wings will lose 9 times out of 10.
Remember my statement. Depending on where United Wings lands is how checked Urshifu is. I still think it's a fantastic deck. That's why I think it's the top of the A. And it has nothing to do with the fact that I don't want it to get red listed.
It is
I
not.
don't want
it
it
is-
to get red listed, despite the fact that it's been on the red list for how long?
and I am arguing against it. But okay, of course, high A and bottom C, we're essentially saying the exact same position
It's
if we're
not
really
A,
looking at it.
It's
But I really do think that Urshifu has more checks than you guys are giving it credit for. It doesn't really matter if it's high A or low S.
I think our shoes where it belongs. Or Terra,
bulk.
not the EX.
Okay, not
The
the EX.
evolution.
Evolution Diva Press.
C. Because I think it's still
I think
too.
better than
I
Darkrai.
it
Is it really?
Yeah, I think it's also better than Blacephalon.
So what tools does it get that obviously
It has Leafeon GX.
you lost me there?
Grand Bloom.
Yeah.
Evolve a bunch of shit.
Really? That's his GS attack?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It evolves. Can it evolve like stage 1 to stage 2 in the same turn?
I think it's specifically basic to Stage 1.
Okay.
But you
mean-
go get like all your growth
I think that's the only
and
reason it's
stuff.
actually not bad. It's specifically basic to Stage 1.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it doesn't also. I mean, it has Grotto. Obviously, then you just start pulling stuff out.
It does have a lot of tools. It can do a lot of damage. It has access to Skyfield, to Gengar, to...
It just has to get the setup essentially.
Mhm.
Because if you honestly don't get the
But it
GX
does
attack
set up.
off, well,
It does
that's
set
the
up.
thing is like
Because it also has access to 70 HP Turtwig from Ultra Prism.
yeah.
I'm looking at
Which I
I'm looking
think is
around
the
essentially
I think
what
it's
is
the-
around there and like what again the top decks. How would it compare? Darkrai doesn't have enough output. Torterra actually does. So yeah, I think I agree with you. Blacephalon has output to like take down the top decks.
I think I put it right above... It's somewhere between. Okay, it's somewhere in the range of Blacephalon to Lost Box. I think somewhere in this range.
Yeah, I agree.
Like above or below Lost Box?
And which
I think it's probably still below Lost Box.
so Malamar.
I would.
Would you rather?
I would honestly put it above the Malamar.
So do you think it's better than the Malamar against everything else?
Yes,
Yeah,
because
okay.
because of the damage output.
That is fair.
The damage output's really good. Malamar also is shaky.
Because I assume that it's running Skyfield.
It should be. I think all the versions of it I've seen are running Skyfield.
If it's running Skyfield for the extra damage because it's the baby Torterra that deals.
It hits like a goddamn truck. And
Yeah, I mean, it was already hitting for 300 outside of Skyfield.
Quick question: is the Banette almost start too low?
No.
No.
You think it's exactly there where it needs to be?
Yeah.
Because that is a huge freaking.
It literally is because the Vileplumes are just more.
The Vileplumes are much better.
Which is fine, but again, against the rest of it, it really doesn't do much better than any of the decks above it.
I asked him this, like, his favorite Alex is the Banette Vileplume, but the whole reason why I built the Banette Vileplume and he transitioned his to the Banette Amistar is because I already had the stuff for the Vileplume.
And yet, I'm probably still going to switch mine back to Vileplume.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's more there, but again, you guys have more experience with it. I will.
The Banette Vileplume is just a lot better in the format than the Amistar. The Amistars are like, show me your hand. And
that is good, though. But
it is good, but at the same time, it's like, yeah,
again,
I can see just
we're
my
comparing
team
it against every other deck, and you guys are seriously telling me that Malamar and Torterra do better.
Yeah.
That I like about Banette Vileplume over Banette Omastar is the fact that you can run a copy of the water type Oddish.
Which again,
Was that just because you like Oddish?
No, it's because Brooklyn Hill exists.
Yes.
Fair.
So I also want to point out that we've never. We're not arguing which one is better. We clearly know that Vileplume is better.
Just the
but
Banette Amistar is just.
Banette Omastar against the rest of the meta does better than Torterra. I'm sorry, does worse than Torterra and Malamar.
Yeah.
Against the rest of the meta.
Yes, because the damage output. The damage output on the Malamar and Torterra is significantly higher, and they hit it a lot easier.
Does it?
I wonder.
Well, okay, maybe not the Malamar, but the Torterra.
I think
yes.
maybe it should go above. I think maybe Omastar should go above Malamar actually.
And then Torterra keeps its spot
I think
because
Torterra
of
keeps
the
its spot.
of the output.
The
that it can do
Torterra
quickly.
just literally just hits like a truck.
It does.
You just need
It's
you just
so
need to get his
hard.
head up. And it's so easy to get the attack off too. It's literally two
Yeah, it
damage.
really is.
Up next is Toxtricity.
Of a city, of a
I
city.
actually really love this deck.
You're gonna have to be the one that tiers it. If not, it's going into the Zoroark tier because like the only thing that
I
we've
love
done
it.
so
Can
far
you just
is-
change the name to Zoroark tier? I love it.
Are we actually doing Zoroark tier?
Zoroark tier.
Okay, Zoroark tier. I don't think it's Zoroark tier. I think it's probably B, lower B.
Do you think it's better than Blacephalon?
Yes.
Do you think it's better than Malamar?
Uh,
Because now we're also in the realm of like, do we adjust Malamar below Blacephalon?
I think Blacephalon is still worse than Malamar. That's an issue.
Okay, so
I think Toxtricity probably sits between them. I think
because
where it
like
belongs.
that's the thing, is it better than Blacephalon? You're like, yes. Is it better than Malamar?
Yeah, I don't think so. Malamar, the Giratina is kind of hard for it to deal with. It's matchup specific, but I know, but still. I think Toxtricity can hit really, really hard, but Toxtricity does have the struggle of trying to keep
Set
stuff
up.
going.
Yeah.
Whereas Malamar just has that Giratina that it can keep bringing back. So I think,
So it clunks up a little bit harder than Malamar does.
yeah. And then Serena EX, I think it's just
It was
Zoroark tier.
yeah.
It doesn't seem to play to really get a justifiable hit on the.
Santiago did that once, and like he's never gone back to that deck.
No, and he did fairly well with it.
He did,
But-
it was just Iron Hands.
Yeah, and then this is. I'm just gonna dump this in the same spot as the other Malamar.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say. So what exactly? So the Malamar then represents the
So,
other variant,
this
and then the
is-
Ultra
this is-
Necrozma is a
Yeah,
different.
I was mentioning Ultra Necrozma earlier, but this version's actually the one with Giratina and Giratina level X.
Okay.
Which I don't love the Giratina level X. I know Caleb likes it, but it basically just makes you discard a card when you attack.
So why is that one below Necrozma?
Because they're basically the same in terms of power level.
Okay, is the Giratina level X
Better or worse?
Better or worse than the Toxtricity?
My opinion, I think it's probably like this.
Okay. That's fair.
I think-
honestly, that's what I was reading from your opinion. I just wanted to see it on the tier list.
I think here's the thing. I think Ultra Necrozma 1 is better only because it can hit the numbers easier. It
Which
has
makes
an
it better.
extra attacker that does big damage. The only big issue is Ultra Necrozma itself is squishy as fuck.
Okay.
Up next, United Wings.
B.
Throw that thing in the fire. Fire. Fire, I say. Yeah, right next to Charizard. Burn it.
I think it's A. I think it's lower A, but I think it's A.
Yeah, I honestly don't think it's... Because the thing with the Charizard is... Okay, not counting the stuff coming out. I still think it's below Charizard. But I do think it's better than the Miraidon
version of
Pidgeot.
Miraidon?
Because
Okay.
Miraidon Pidgeot, it
So-
could easily hit the number.
So we're not counting Dartrix yet.
No,
No.
because
We haven't touched Shadow
Shadow
Fable.
No, because then Darkrai would be
This is
higher.
still Twilight and Masquerade format we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because Darkrai would be higher than where it's at if
Yeah,
we
you're
were
right.
counting Shadowed Fable.
So Dartrix
Dartrix probably
is off the table.
keeps
so
hitting that
you-
same format or that same tier, honestly.
You think
might
it's
bump
that?
it up, it might bump
it would bump it. It
Because
would
again,
bump it above.
we're
It would
talking
bump
about-
it above.
just I think.
Just Ard.
And
But
I was gonna say that
It'd be
specifically.
below the Turbo Hand still. But
Yeah, because it's literally-
it's above the Miraidon Pidgeot because it can easily hit the numbers to deal with that deck.
So yeah, United Wings hits very hard. It does a lot of damage. It has stuff like Muscle Band if it or not if my version doesn't need to run it. I don't think it needs it, but you have ways to do a shitload of damage even currently without Dartrix. Dartrix gives you the opportunity to hit Grass Weakness if you need it for the format. I don't think you do, but you have access to Battle Compressor. Like I think it's just
It
good.
struggles against decks that can actually out HP it if it can't reach the numbers, and we've just talked about how important reaching numbers is.
Yeah.
So, does it do it better or worse than Charizard or Miraidon?
I think it does it worse than Charizard, but I think it does it better than the Pidgeot version of Miraidon.
Okay, so it's exactly where it needs to be.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean that's what I was saying. Is like it's worse than Charizard at the moment, but it's still better than the Pidgeot Miraidon.
Weezing.
High A,
High B.
high A.
It's literally a one-trick pony.
It is a one-trick pony.
But it is a very good trick.
It is a
It's
very
a
good
fun
one
trick,
trick. It is
too.
a very good, fun, and very good one-trick pony, but it is a one-trick pony.
It doesn't win ever against single prizers. Like
No.
it can't.
You're right.
It also doesn't win against Amazing Surge.
In fact, with that, I would actually probably put it below Gigas.
Because they can
Because
win against single prizes.
Gigas
it can win against single
can
prizers.
take care of single
Agreed.
prizers.
So I think it's probably right there.
Yeah, it's still above the Guardy because the Guardy has 2 prizers in it.
Yeah, although we can hide them. And the last deck on this ranking is Wug Trio.
D.
I don't think it's D.
I'm literally just hating on it.
Zoroark
Put
here?
put it with the other mills. Put it with the other
You know what?
mills.
That's fair.
Poor Alakazam.
It's the worst of the 3 mills in my opinion.
Okay, so that is our tier list. Do we have anything we need to look at and reconsider, or we think that's?
I think
pretty
we've
solid?
talked a little bit like how to A tier. We
Can
literally
we-
discussed
can we-
A tier the most, so I think.
Can we pull up the tournament report and update it?
So A tier, I think, has been discussed really well, and I think I personally don't know enough about Amazing Rare Kyogre,
trust
but
me.
you guys have played, you guys know exactly where it is. So
I love how
well,
you've not played against very specific decks in this chart.
Yeah, I know.
It's weird.
because, okay, so
Because of the times that I play, everybody's playing very specific stuff, and then the times that I don't play, or decks that have been left behind
Okay.
and not used anymore,
so
and I'm not playing.
I'm going to get your opinion after him.
So
You first, real quick.
okay, so just to clarify, then, my first of all, I think A is exactly where it needs to be. No changes made. Still think Urshifu should be A, but hey, there's no agenda here or anything. It's just me talking.
What decks would you say I'm most popular for?
You?
What
We'll have
de-
a
what-
discussion right now, but we're talking about if we need to have any changes done to the tier list right now.
No.
So B looks pretty good. Do you guys feel like there's anything in B that shouldn't be in B? Either up or down.
I mean, I already made my argument, but
What, Reggie going up? Or what?
it's honestly because I've played against a lot of them. So that's where my argument will always be, is because I've played against a lot of
And
them.
then Darkrai up or down?
Darkrai is where it's at. Now come Shadow Fable, it'll probably go up.
Could probably go head to A.
Well,
low A,
it'll
maybe.
either be high B,
To
low
be
A.
fair, I could see an argument for Darkrai potentially being C tier, but I think if it went down to C tier, Blacephalon would go with it.
I see what you mean. Because also B tier is very crowded.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if B tier is that crowded, is it really B tier, not just pushing C tier side?
I think B is fair to be.
B is like
heavy.
the more average.
Because it's just
The
an average deck.
C is more of the. It's,
C is
one,
below-
it's gonna be a one-trick pony.
C's are below
Like
average.
very low
If we
one-trick
go-
ponies.
If
But
we're defining C as below average,
Mhm.
honestly, Blacephalon and Darkrai probably should be in C.
I can see that.
but the thing is like when they actually have the setup, they can hit the numbers.
When they have
When they have the setup. But okay, so hold on. Does that mean that everything in B is average or above?
I think
I
everything in
would
B
say
should be
it's-
average.
I would say average, because if we're saying average or above, then you're trying to put it into
Well,
low, very low A.
Well, of course. And we're essentially saying that it's not below average. So B is average.
Everything in B is average. B on the tier list is average.
So then I agree then.
So then Darkrai and Blacephalon should go down to C.
Correct. But honestly,
Yes.
I think Tox goes with it.
I don't think so.
No.
Tox is better than both of them. By a
Now
lot.
come Shadow
Yeah.
Fable, Darkrai will move up.
Of course, yes.
Darkrai changes, but current version of Darkrai.
Current version.
Then I'm happy with that. If you're vouching for Toxtricity being, I'll just add, like, it can actually, it's not below average.
It's the bottom of the average, but it's still there.
Okay. And then how do we feel about C tiers? They're all below average. Is Alakazam clunky enough to go down to
Yes.
D?
No, it's clunky enough to where it stays where it's at.
I think it's fine at the bottom of C.
So in other words, it is below average. It's hard to kind of pull it off, but when it does, it pops
when it
off.
does, it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, then I feel comfortable with this list. Honestly, the 3 decks right there in Zoroark tier, I would love to play them.
Yeah.
Just kind of test them out and stuff. I didn't realize the Mews were so bad in Eternal.
So bad.
Yeah.
Most 3 prizers are generally quite bad.
The only decent
You know how you
thing
felt-
is honestly
You know how you
Yoshi.
felt at NAIC when your Rapid Strike Urshifu Vmax got one shot by the
Mew? Yeah.
That's how these 2 decks, the Mew Vmax and the Mew Mew,
Feel against
always
everything
feel
else.
when you're playing against.
By the way, justice for Urshifu, high A tier. Shown at bro.
Okay, so
Just for Urshifu, you want it downgraded.
Yeah.
okay, so I
Justice
want
for Urshifu
an
to say
opinion
that.
on everybody in this room.
Okay.
What would you? Okay, Tiff. What deck would you say I am represented with this?
In Eternal.
Because I have played almost. I have either played or played against almost every
Honestly,
single one of these decks.
I feel like at this point, it's
I-
that's-
I know what you're going to say.
Okay. I want to
wanna go
hear
down
what
the
Tiff
line.
says. Yeah.
Because you know me.
This is essentially Ryan's Wankfest.
you're not wrong.
I know what she's probably going to say.
Wait, what would you say?
I feel like she would say Banette Valplum.
Yeah, that was my first guess because
Mm-hmm.
that's what I've seen him like actually
Play
play the
them up.
most.
And
Played a lot.
it's honestly why she loves the deck so much, because she's played against it a lot.
I know.
And then-
Fun deck.
Okay, so Caleb outside of the smile would say amazing.
Mine.
You just
100%
haven't. You have
research.
not played amazing enough. At least I haven't seen it. Enough.
I have played it enough to where people really hate playing against it.
You have, but I still think that stupid smile wins.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I genuinely think it's Dragapult at this point. You've won how many tournaments? with it?
Dragon Ball was my second one.
I
Yeah.
have won the same amount with Banette, but that's because Banette is very oppressive at that time.
And I'm gonna be the discerning voice and say,
But it 100% is Dragapult.
recently it's been Dragapult, but I'd say just because your Lost Box infatuation, I will still say that your heart will always belong to Lost Box. And if you don't believe me,
no, actually in Eternal, I actually like Dragapult.
and if you don't believe me, as soon as the Dragapult goes away, he's gonna jump right back to Lost Box. Don't at me.
No, because like I said with the argument with Lost Box, it is one of those things where it's literally I pulled out when people forget that.
You
it's
asked me
there.
for my opinion. I gave you my opinion.
Anyway, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this different kind of video for us today. A lot longer than I expected it to be, but you know what? It's a fun one, all the same. If you want to make a tier list of your own for the Eternal format, you can jump in. I'm going to leave the link for this tier list in the description of this video. So do tell us how you feel about your own opinion of the tier list.
Remember, Urshifu goes in A tier.
If you made it this far, put in the comments, don't ban Dragapult.
Don't ban Urshifu.
You guys just don't want your S tier decks to go away. I see
No, I'm from Jolteon going away.
Everybody's like, no, get rid of that one. Get rid of this one. Don't get rid of that one.
See, that's why you made S tier red, didn't you?
That's actually the default.
Oh my god. How dare you. Just a bloodbath I'm hearing.
Oh, shit. Anyway, that's it for us today. We will see you guys.